Good morning, all of you. What a fantastic day. Today, 1st of March, we are beginning the first webinar of the month with lobby smoke control and basement smoke management. Today, Saturday, is a knowledge sharing day. I have a fantastic speakers lineup today. So, we're going to talk a lot on critical role of lobby smoke control, basement smoke management. So we are honored to have a distinguished lined up speakers today who will share their expertise on this crucial aspect of fire safety in buildings. As we all know, fire safety is a critical concern in urban infrastructure, particularly in high-rise buildings, commercial complexes, underground spaces. Effective smoke management in lobbies and basement is not just compliance, but also saving lives, ensuring safe evacuation, and enhancing the resilience of our built environment. Why it's so important for India? If you look at the statistics, so India has been witnessing sharp rise in fire-related incident. Yesterday, Kolaba, I don't know which incident, 42 floor building. I think there was a fire on 30th floor and spreading rapidly. We don't know yet what caused that fire. Similarly, many fire that has been been popping up every corner of the country. Look at the statistics. Almost 30,000 people died due to fire-related incident, and there are more than 8 lakh fire incidents occur annually in residential, industrial, commercial. 8 lakh. High-rise buildings are most vulnerable, which the incident in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai highlights the urgent need for better fire and smoke management. Basement fires are among the most dangerous. As smoke accumulates, it can cause aspiration, leading to fatalities before flame even spread. One of the biggest challenges in fire safety is smoke inhalation, which accounts for 80% of fire-related deaths worldwide. This is why effective smoke control in lobbies and basement is not just regulation, it's all about saving lives, and it is necessary. So why should we care? Because of rapid urbanization, regulatory compliance, life safety, and business continuity. So we have a fantastic speaker. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dominic, been in the fire field almost 35 years, and founding member of FSCI and past president and vice president of Focus and founding member of NFE. So on, so on. We've been doing, as I said, we have crossed almost 73,000 people through our webinar series in the last 2 years. We do almost 3 to 4 webinars every day, the topic that interests our public in common. So our well-known figure, most of you know, Mr. V. Suresh, who's very active and with over 60 years plus experience. Some of you not even, crossed your age, but he has 60 years of wealth of experience in housing, infrastructure, and sustainability. He is the current chairman of National Building Code Committees. He is a former CMD of HUDCO, chairman IGBC Policy and Advocacy. He is a member of BIS Housing and Planning and also founder president of Focus and emeritus president of Focus. So he is associated with NBC work since 1966 for 1970 NBC, 1983, followed by 2005, and current 2016 version is involved from start to end. He was the member secretary in earlier years and vice chairman of 2005-2016 version, and now he is very proud to say he's been appointed as the chairman of NBC. He holds key government roles, including MOE-FCC of Kerala Urban Policing Commission, Tamil Nadu Housing Policy Committee. He is a recipient of 20 plus awards, including IGBC Hall of Fame in 2023 and Focus Lifetime Achievement Award in 2024. A president, good governance, India Foundation, driving smart and sustainable urbanization. He's so proud. Whenever I asked him, sir, can you join for the webinar? Not even once he refused. Not even once he said he's busy. He makes sure that he comes. And we must appreciate his energy and the command that he carries on the infrastructure and sustainability. We have another well-known face. Again, I know him since I think early 2000s in Delhi when he was with Spectral. I've been visiting him, and one of the finest gentlemen that I've come across, one of the rare fire consultant in India. Very few dedicatedly design the building on fire. So he's a founder director of Prayon Consultant Private Limited with 30 plus experience in building services consultancy. He's been contributing to National Building Codes since 2005 version, 2006, and upcoming 2025 very important edition. His expertise in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, fire safety, and sustainability for tall buildings, mixed use, hospitality, healthcare, and commercial projects. He's a visiting faculty at SPA New Delhi for 15 years, mentoring master students in building engineering services. He's a certified fire protection specialist from US, editorial board member of City Buick Chicago. He is also, as I said, I just called him and said, this is a very important subject we would like to talk. Will you come and address? Without any hesitation, he accepted to be the speaker of the day. And I'm sure by end of this today's session, you'll appreciate the knowledge Mr. Sandeep Goel carries on this. And let's make interactive of the presentation. Let's ask questions. And also your participation also helps in building our national building code. We can take your comments, we can any doubt. So I now welcome our keynote address, V. Suresh, to take off from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dominic, for that excellent start and for the introduction of me as well as my dear colleague, Mr. Sandeep Goel, with whom we are working very, very closely for the National Building Code, not only for the 2005 version, 2016 version, but more importantly, the 2025 version. And for the last 1 year, 2024, literally every month we used to have a meeting for not only the documents for and this particular association for work in relation to the part on National Building Code, Part 4 on fire protection, fire safety and life safety, including the section on air conditioning and mechanical ventilation, as well as the plumbing services component and electrical and so many other parts. And he's a multi-dimensional personality who is going to speak today. And I'm extremely happy that I'm going to give a few words of opening remarks for this wonderful session, which has been wonderfully arranged by Dominic. And I'm very happy to see the wonderful participation that's coming not only from within India and also abroad. And 2025 is a very important year for the whole country on construction sector, because the 2025 version of the National Building Code will be coming out by September 2025. That's the time period. We are in March 1st. And from now till September, you will find the whole country is discussing all the parts and sections of the National Building Code in its 2025 version. Very, very important. And as very briefly indicated by Dominic, I had the pleasure of associating right from 1966, pretty long back, over nearly 60 years back, for not only the first version of 1970 version of the NBC, as well as the 1983 version when I was the member secretary in the BIS, and subsequently vice chairman for the 2005 and 2016 version, and now, of course, as chairman of the committee. And it's a great association, starting with the word of only fire protection originally in 1970 version, how the whole thing got undergone a major change into fire safety and life safety. That means the whole thrust area has phenomenally expanded than just fire protection aspect to these two major components coming there. And that itself underlies the type of importance that comes over there. And as rightly brought out by Dominic, fire safety is a very, very important component. And for us, in the National Building Code, the pillars of safety covers structural safety, fire safety, health safety, life safety, public safety, electric safety, environment safety. All safety features are coming over there. But the fire and life safety component is an important element that we built up, and based on which provisions of all the fire regulations all over the country, even though the NBC is as such a guiding document, does not have the mandatory force as such, but you'll be very happy to know most of the states as well as cities have adopted the National Building Code as a basis as a mandatory document, especially for Part 4 on fire protection, which is our fire and life safety, as well as Part 6 on structural design, Part 8 on building services, all the 6 sections which I just very briefly talked on: lighting, ventilation, electrical installations, air conditioning, mechanical ventilation, lifts and escalators, and acoustics and ICT, and also Part 9 on plumbing services. So it's already become a part of the operative regulatory document in large number of building bylaws, development control rules and regulations of many all municipal corporations. In a way they are using this, and all the courts and high courts including Supreme Court has recognized NBC provisions as a basis whenever any issue comes in respect to the built environment concerns and the issues on safety issues on citizens and public at large, where many judgments also come on that. So it's just for a very few opening remarks. There are 12 parts in the National Building Code, which last 2, 11 and 12 got ordered last year on the sustainability chapter, and assets and facility management, very important. I'm sure even Sandeep will be touching on this. It's not enough that buildings are taking care of not only the planning, design, construction, and commissioning operate, but at the end of the day, performance lies in during the life performance. What happens once an occupancy certificate is over, when a building is in operation 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line? How does the building perform? And in terms of fire safety, life safety, the electrical installation, lift installation, air conditioning installation, how does it perform? So assets and facility management, we are the first one in the world to bring that particular one in Part 12 coming. And this will become very, very important when you want to really check a fire audit to carry out, or want to know whether things are working or not working, what requests to be done, etc. So between these 12 parts, and there are many sections under Part 6, about 8 of them. Part 8, there are about 6 sections, and Part 9, there are about 4 sections. Altogether, it's about 12 parts and 21 sections, about 33 documents. And you can be arrested already, 6 of them already come on wide circulation. And this document that you're just going to discuss on fire protection now in the National Building Code, in the next 15 days, it will come for wide circulation for comments from over 10,000 and 20,000 people all over the country. Kindly look out for the document which is going to come out. You get a flavor of what are the contents of that from the Sandeep Goel and the team who are working very hard on that. Fortunately, I'm a member also of the, besides being the chairman of the National Building Code, member of the NBC panel on fire protection, including Dominic, also a member there. And we're very happy and proud to say that our document that we have even is one of the best state-of-the-art document anywhere in the world that we can think of, whether the NFPA or the BIS or the BS or whatever. Any best practice in this particular area are going to get captured in our 2025 version, because this is a document which will be there for the next around 10 to 15 years time period for India's development. And India's development is taking place at such a fast pace and rate at which construction is going on, and more so in big cities, including the tier 2 cities and all, taller buildings coming, multi mixed use development coming, and the type of complexities are coming in the buildings are substantially large. And again, there was a good reference which was told about a building fire yesterday over there, and spread of the fire as a result of the smoke. And over 86% of the deaths that's happening in fire is not because of heat or burn. It is due to smoke, asphyxiation, or the people not able to, blinded or not able to breathe properly. And smoke control becomes a very, very important component. Not only in our code, we have recognized that in the 70 version, 83 version, but I'm very happy 2005 and 2016 version, when Sandeep joined us on our team for the last 2, and of course the present version, this is now giving a much larger coverage. And I'm happy that while the overall topic in fire and life safety is an important component, we will be touching only one small component of the lobby smoke management, and the basement smoke management in this particular session to give a specialized effort on that. And it's extremely essential how codal provisions are there to take care of these requirements in a very large way. And as you would see when Sandeep opens out, the nature of provisions that have been added on this particular topic is quite comprehensive and substantial and user friendly, and this is very good for not only the builders, developers who are developing, and including corporates and government for putting up buildings of various types, including all the professional consultants for the passive design by the architects and civil engineers, and the active design by the MEP professionals, including fire protection professionals in a very large way, and also assets and facility management company. At the end of the day, they are the one to keep it going. And smoke control becomes an important one. Compartmentation was a very major component of controlling the fire contained within a specific space, that we'll be able to make the right level of intervention to deal with that aspect right at the source, so it doesn't start spreading. Spreading of smoke is a very, very dangerous thing. One, and how do you ensure that within a contained space becomes an important area, so it doesn't spread on to other parts of the building, or from one building to other, the floor by, and especially with the type of facade type of development with fenestration, the smoke can spread. Therefore, including fire, of course, through the crevices and all that. Lot of provisions have been added in the code to ensure that that doesn't happen. But equally important is to that, how do you ensure once smoke comes over there, how do you control that particular thing, and how do you put detectors for not only the thermal detectors, smoke detectors also an important component. Its detection also becomes an important area. And what is equally important is, how do you take care of extraction component coming? There are a lot of provisions to deal with that particular one at various spaces. And basement has been identified specifically because you're coming down to not one basement, two basement, three basement, where a lot of equipments, machineries, car parking and related ones are there. And therefore, you have to ensure that everybody is safe in those particular spaces in a very large way. So these are very, very important component which are there. And lobby is a particular area where large people congregate from vertical transportation of one floor to another one. And so it doesn't get into the lift over there and through the elevators, the whole lift shaft can also be a very dangerous one for smoke movement. I'm sure Sandeep would be talking about all the situations where smoke control, even though he'll be concentrating on two things on lobby as well as the basement in a larger way. I do not want to come between you and Sandeep for his wonderful presentation, because I don't want to be repetitive on some of the things which is going to open out. But what I want you to understand is that this is one of the very critical area, and everybody is looking forward if you are able to control this particular aspect. Of course, fire and life safety component especially is a very important component from the point of view of the various safety parameters, and we want a resilience to happen in the building over there. All these features have got to be taken into account, right? The planning, design, execution, commissioning, as well as the maintenance stage on a 24/7 basis, so that at all points of time the buildings are able to. Now, in particular, I would like a sensitive occupancies which are there, where there are the movements are restricted, like hospitals or various schools or other related one, where young children, their ability to move around cannot be met, or aged people, they can't move around, they're not in a condition. So smoke control related provisions becomes a very important aspect. What type of extraction mechanism can be there for getting the smoke out, etc., are details onto which we'll have a wonderful opportunity to hear from Sandeep's presentation.
Yeah.
And I would also like to close by saying that when the draft on part 4 on fire and life safety comes into wide circulation, expected to come by mid-March over there, kindly contribute to that. It will come for a 1 month time period. Give your positive views on that, and wherever you feel that needs to be improved upon, or something more to be added in your own practice over the years or abroad, wherever, if you think there's some excellent provisions which you have missed out for some reason. As such, we have tried to scan the latest provisions available all over the world and the practices there. And we also hear of good experience that has been learned. Many people have burned their fingers, or a lot of people, fire professionals, including fire safety people, large number of people from the fire safety, Deri Saab, Warik Saab, Deshmukh Saab, all have contributed very, Gopalji and all that. So we are very happy that we are having the best possible people on this particular topic who have put their mind on this particular document. So please participate. And for the time being, let us enjoy the presentation
Thank
coming
you.
from Sandeep Goel now. And please give all your questions. Please put it on the question box so that we'll have opportunity for which reply will be given by Sandeep ji, and to the extent where possible by me or by Dominic. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
inviting me
Thank you.
to
Thank you,
join
sir.
on this wonderful session. All the fire brigade people, the administration people all over the country are eagerly looking forward to the NBC 2025 version. Take my word. And they all want to see that these provisions really take care of the safe built environment over the next few decades, with India is growing to grow in a very large way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Over to Sandeep.
Thank you, Suresh sir. Thank you, Dominic. I take this great opportunity to be part of such a great gathering of people who have here. And I think we'll just cover up this topic of smoke control and management. As an introduction, we are MEP consultants, and I don't really want to kind of tell you what exactly is our kind of major way of working is MEP and fire life safety consulting. We work for many projects all throughout the country. More than working on the projects and earning our bread and butter out of it, I think the most satisfying journey throughout the life has been for last 24 years now is to be working for the Bureau of Indian Standard. And one of the other passionate opportunity God has given us to be teaching at the School of Planning and Architecture. These are the two major, I would say, satisfying, achievements. I would use the word for me, my wife Shruti, who also works. We work together as a family. I think we are highly committed towards the betterment of the country, whatever we could do in terms of the working on the aspects of the codes. We are a company, we are a family who is very passionate about codes. We would like to have compliances because in my major working of more than 28 years now, I've seen chairmen of any organizations do not want to compromise. They would like to sleep well, they would like to conduct their businesses rather than really making any shortcuts in the compliances part of it. Consultants like us, the architects, because of whatever reason, we may not know the subject, we may know too much of the subject, we may try to find a loophole out of it, are the ones who are actually, to be very honest with you, we need to do our soul search of the contribution we have done with respect to advising our stakeholders about the right decisions. A wrong decision and a late decision always creates the major problem of changes. And this is where I think referring codes and standards. So, whenever we worked on the National Building Code of India, and I've been part of it for 24 years, I've always believed that while you want to do better things back in home, you'll have to see what is happening in the global picture and not just adopt it, but of course, understand. And most of the people whom I may meet, even in consulting fraternity, they are with an opportunity of what. But if we learn why, I think the passion to deliver is far more, because what will only make you do, and why it is to be done makes you believe and function on it. So I would like to say over here, at the end of the webinar, we will do a QR code, transmit. You can scan the QR code on your handheld device. I'm just, kind of making you appraised. You can do and unfortunately, I'll not be able to read the chats right now during my presentation because I'll focus on the presentation. But as the webinar concludes, I will send a QR code at the end of this. You can scan it on your mobile. You can please ask us, and we will share the details of the presentation which we are making. Some abridged version will be shared, of course, because a lot of information is available here. And most importantly, we want to collaborate. It's not that I'm here to teach you, I'm here to learn myself. And I believe that we are over here for me, my family, and my loved ones. We are not over here doing any charity. I think it's my family which makes me motivate to do something for the country. Not exactly that I would like to put my name on the top. God has been kind. We are not looking for that. We are looking to do something nicely for my country, take the pride ahead. So, as we start with the technical session over here, And I think the answer is, at least to this August gathering, would be very well clear. But people come out with an idea of that people die because of smoke. So, what should be the magic so that people don't die because of smoke? Something has to be done. When we had COVID, we knew the vaccine will save us. We know seatbelt saves us. We know the right kind of decisions taken for the education of our children makes them go right, and all those things we know. But what should be in a similar pattern done so that people don't die because of smoke? So I'm really tired of listening to this statement saying people die because of smoke. So there has to be some magic with which people don't die because of smoke. So somebody, when we don't have an interactive session right now, but I always take the opportunity in a personal interactive session to have a dialogue with the audience and ask them what should be done. So I get a lot of answers. People say put a bigger fan, do all kind of electromechanical systems. But today we don't have the opportunity for an interaction. So I'll just come straight to the answer. And the answer is very simple. One word: compartmentation. And it becomes very complex, when you use the word compartmentation. It looks like a very big engineering jargon, but this is it. That's it. What is a compartmentation? What your mother used to give you when you were in school: carry a tiffin box. It has got all your food, but the food doesn't mix with each other, and you can enjoy the food when you reach your office, when you reach your school. And this is what is all compartmentation all about. So if we start looking buildings like a tiffin box and we do this, then I'm sure life is much more simpler. And believe me or not, if you have a compartmentation, you really don't need anything, because the whole objective remains to put the snake in the house in one room. The moment you have all the rooms of your home open, the snake will go from one room to the other room, and you are not able to sleep because you do not know when do you find the snake in the house, in which room. But if you know where the problem is and you isolate the problem. So I'll give a classical example. What happened in COVID? We did compartmentation. The whole country was compartmentalized. First, we compartmented the world. The flights from the country to country stopped. Then we started compartmentalizing the cities. So the flights in the cities stopped. Then we started compartmenting the colonies and then the blocks. So everything was compartment. And when everything was compartment in isolation, the problem started to get controlled. And this is a very simple mechanism, that you are able to isolate any problem, whether it is fire, whether it is medical contingencies, whether it is whatever it is. You also compartment your savings. You put your savings for children's education, you put your children for children's marriage, for making a house. Everything is compartment. So why don't we follow the same policy? So the basic fundamental remains is that if you are able to isolate the seat of fire, the sprinklers and the hydrants are able to remove the fire from the space which has occurred, nothing is going to be happening into these buildings. Now, having said that, this is the magic. This is what it is. It is heaven and hell. And we know from our mythological understanding, heaven and hell, the distinguishment. So why don't we have it in that pattern? And once we have achieved the opportunity of compartmentation, then we work to resolve the problem of smoke mitigation in that compartment, which also is very simple. And I will like to learn from everybody. Eventually, when you put the QR code, we are in touch with each other. Let's understand from you your learnings, because the why will make us elevate. The what will not do anything for us. What is an instruction? Why is the learning? So the mechanical systems which we provide within that compartmentation is going to give you superior level of safety, I would use the word. But 70% of the safety is achieved by just the virtue of compartment. Additional safety is achieved by mechanical system within that compartment. Now, very honestly, a lot of times, when we understand high-rise buildings, and Dominic was very passionately talking about high-rise buildings, fire and stuff like that. Do you know how many buildings are allowed in India which are beyond 30 meters? Only three occupancies, my dear friends: offices, hotels, and homes. That's it. These are the only buildings. And well, of course, to some extent, healthcare above 30 up to 45 with, aspects of occupancies identified. That's one part of the story. But the other part is that in real life, the tall buildings, so called, in the country exist only under these three categories. And these three categories are the ones which makes all of us sleepless. Tall buildings. But I'm going to be assuring you, as we move ahead, you will find all these things very simple, because we complicate the things by saying what, and what. But if we understand the why out of it, things are going to be much more simpler. So I'm sure if I try to do a conversation asking people what are beyond 30 meters, people will not come back with an immediate answer. They'll think over it. But the immediate answer is office, hotels, and homes. That's it. So we are talking about tall buildings only in these three categories, unless until the chairman, the committee decides to make certain heights go beyond 30 meters. That's one part of the story. Now, one important thing is permissible FSI and FAR in some major economies. You can see the numbers. I don't have to read them. Just read the number of India. This is where we are. How could we be so far away from an FSI number from a global perspective and global standard? Eventually, my dear friends, we will go higher FSI, higher dollars. 2025, yes, no. 2030, yes, no. 2035, definitely yes. So I don't see we're going to be shying away from the opportunity of increasing FSI and also to increase the heights of the building. But the concept of having the safety provisions have to be brought into the minds of the people today. The new generation has to understand the concept of safety, so that when the time comes, we are not unsure about what we have to do. And this is where it is. And I always have believed, back in my office, we work and people say, I have sent, I have not done, I think so. And I said, that's without the data, you are just a person with an opinion. You don't carry a data. And data is so significantly important to make sure that all of us are progressively correct in the changes which we are making. Now, air conditioning system, and we all know smoke management, air conditioning systems are quite interrelated to each other. And we are talking about air conditioning systems, which are basically indoor air quality, temperature, humidity, kitchens, parking exhaust, chilled water piping, condenser water pipes, AHUs, insulation. There is a whole, I'm the president of Delhi chapter of ISHRE, and I'm going to be the president for the ASHRE India in the month of March, in the month of April 2025. So I have been fortunate again to be part of some of these selfless associations like ISHRE and ASHRE towards the knowledge dissemination. But the portfolio goes very large for ISHRE and ASHRE, and we also participate hugely beyond smoke, just into the planning of the air conditioning system, which is generally the way of life we live in. So the smoke management in superstructure and substructures, we have broken the discussion in two parts. So I'm just calling it as we move ahead. A is above building, that means above basement, superstructure. B is basement, that is below strata. So simple, you make a datum, building above the grade, building below the grade. So the technologies, the systems, the provisions for what is above the grade and what is below the grade is what we have to distinguish. And this, if we are clear with, I'm sure life becomes more simple, because you have compartmented your engineering, your research in two different parts: above grade, below grade. That's how it is. Now let's try to go around that. How is smoke mitigation? I love this word, smoke mitigation. A lot of people say pressurization, they say smoke venting. A lot of words are being used for. But smoke mitigation is a better word, because it basically attends and addresses both the problems and both the aspects of smoke resolutions, which are, I call it for a simplicity, I call it Pascals, because you call it pressurizations. So when you are doing Pascals, you are doing pressurization of spaces, and you talk about 25 Pascals, 50 Pascals, 80 Pascals. The Pascal phenomena is able to distinguish typically, basically, of the smoke differentials which we create. The ACPH is air changes per hour. So what you are doing in ACPH, you are actually adding the fresh air and you are removing the exhaust air. A typical ACPH is happening in majority of our businesses. For example, a toilet. So if you have an ACPH, not for smoke, but for general ventilation, what you do, you bring in a fresh air through the undercut of the toilet door. There is an exhaust fan which throws the air out of the toilet. So what you have done a certain amount of ACPH to create spaces which are more fresh, which are more easy to be livable. So this is not tenability, this is about livability. In a toilet, you see it. In kitchen, when at home or at hotels, you put an exhaust chimney. The air is coming from outside, it picks up the fumes from the cooking and it goes into the exhaust system and it's thrown out. So it is ACPH, which is basically air changes per hour, which we use in our normal lives without knowing. Most of us, not as engineers, we know of, but you and your family would not know. Majority of your family would know not know, but we are silent users of ACPH in our businesses, in our lives, for making dilution and therefore controlling the aspects of growth of nuisance relating to smell within the space. We're not talking about smoke. So here you are, you've got Pascals, you've got ACPH, two different things clear. Now, when you go to smoke management, ACPH is of cold smoke and hot smoke. I will be very surprised if I can get one answer from everybody. You will either not get an answer or you will get people with different answers. Cold smoke, question mark, hot smoke, question mark, I don't know, question mark. So this is the problem when we as people work, we do not have the clarity of the system's hardware usability. Dom, I think I have reasonable time. Okay. Fair enough. So you got Pascals, we have got smoke displacement. Typically speaking, Pascals are done for spaces which are used for exits. I've highlighted the green zone. This is the staircase where you do Pascals. You do a red zone, which I don't like because in case of fire, the red zone is the trouble where the smoke has got accumulated. And we have this understanding from our guests that we have to do some kind of a smoke venting to create tenability, which we'll come to. Now, there are two types of aspects over here. We can see two arrows on the screen, I hope. So I have again highlighted A is for above floors. That means floors which are above the basement. A1 and A2. So we again break the whole thing into two distinct parts. One is A1. A1 is ACPH. So you are doing a dilution of the smoke to achieve tenability. So when we dilute, we remove the pollutants. And that's what we do always, whenever we work to reduce the pollutants, the best way is to do dilution. So when we do the ACPH, we are trying to create environment by diluting the smoke, enabling tenability. That's one part of the story. And therefore, you imagine that more number of people can remain in that space in case we have got these spaces which are with human occupancies. And you notice, yeah. So you notice that you have got spaces in which you have got human occupancies and you want to dilute the smoke out of the space, enabling them to remain there. Well, I have difference of opinion. I don't think from the best of my learnings over many years, you can create a space which with you can keep diluting and keep the human beings there. You have to bring them into the exits. The exit is a red green box where you create pressurization to eliminate the smoke to enter into the spaces which are used for exits. Now, within the pascals of the pressurization, you have got staircase pressurization, you've got natural ventilation, you've got lobby pressurization, you've got hoistway pressurizations. I'm sorry, it's got repeated twice. So the first three lines are the correct lines, last two have been repeated again. If you read the words, this is all about pressurization. And the pressurization is the goal to achieve the objective of creating those spaces for the people who are leaving the building not to be exposed to the hazard of smoke. I'll take you to NFPA 92. Now, NFPA 92 is a large text, so maybe you can read it. If you read the opening statement on the extreme left top, it says smoke exhaust system. It doesn't talk about pressurization. It talks about exhaust. When I say exhaust means the exhaust we are talking about is ACPH. Maintenance of tenable environment in a smoke zone is not within the capability of these systems. So, my dear friends, you may do as much air changes, you may do 12 air changes, you may do what kind of a magic. There is no way that by virtue of smoke exhaust system, you can maintain tenability. So let's please be very clear about it that if you are trying to have a smoke control system, tenability will not be achieved. The puzzle lies, then why do we do a smoke management system? Why do we need to provide one? Look at the NFPA 92. It was earlier NFPA 92A and 92B. Look at the italics in the bottom. It says 92 standard for smoke control system combines the requirement of NFPA 92A standalone smoke control system using barriers and pressure differentials, which was 92A title. The 92B title was standard for smoke management system in malls, atria, and large spaces. So it covers all types of systems used to address the impact of smoke, design, installation, and testing. My dear friends, if you really look, 92A talked about barriers. That means you create isolated compartments for exits. It talked about pressure differences. So it talks about PD. It doesn't talk about ACPH. The 92B is basically for large spaces like malls, atria, and large spaces which are like airports, which are like convention centers, which are like your malls. Those all spaces which have got very high ceiling, and those are the spaces where you have issues for mitigating the smoke. But it does not talk about smoke control system for offices. I would like to put on record that I would like to learn from the global code where exactly is a smoke management system for a classical scenario of an office is mentioned in any of the global codes. I would like to take this opportunity to learn. This is what it is. You create an airflow, the high pressure side and the low pressure side. What is the high pressure side in this case? The staircase, my dear friends. What is the low pressure side? The zone, which we call in our language incident zone or the fire zone, where the fire has occurred. So you have created an airflow pattern to keep the smoke not to enter into the spaces which are used as exits. This is the classical scenario of a staircase door which is kept on. It's a beautiful picture. It's got what all? It's got everything. It's got a panic bar. It's a fire rated door. It's got a signage. It also has a very good fire rating. Fire rating for 2 hours is also written on it, my dear friends. It also has a door closure. Where the problem is? The problem is this. Somebody has been mistakenly, unknowingly, because he did not know the what. He know what, but he does not know the why. So he knows in the code, you have to provide a fire door, you have to put a panic bar, you have to put a door closure. But the code did not say, Mr. Designer, Mr. Builder, please do not put a fire door stopper. I saw this picture in one of the buildings in Gurgaon, and in the National Building Code of India, I proposed the committee to write as a prohibition to provide a door stopper. And my committee agreed. We wrote in the code, not on hold open. If you keep them on hold open, what you will have a problem with? No problem. This is what it is. The what is because this is the why behind it. If the door is kept on hold open, you will have the fire to enter into the stairwell. And if the fire enters into the stairwell, my dear friends, the rescue mechanism, the evacuation strategy for you to leave the building, and as I always say, your loved ones to leave the building is ZERO, zero. You can't leave it because the highway through which you and your family were to exit is being blocked. There is a tree there. You can't cross the highway. What exactly happens? So this is the National Building Code of India, which very clearly said that pressurization is a methodology with which you are able to protect the escape routes against ingress of smoke, especially in high-rise buildings. In pressurization, air is ejected into the staircase, lobbies, or corridors. XYZ, I don't want to use the word blah, 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 blah. All of that is put over here very clearly. We can educate people by writing, but people have to read that. So pressurization is very clearly identified here. Upar tragedy, and I did this pictures from Miss Neelam Krishnamurthy's Twitter account, wherein the designer was told you have to put a fan in the staircase. And what did the designer do? He provided an exhaust fan in the opposite direction. And what it led to? It sucked the smoke from the auditorium into the staircase. And Ms. Neelam Krishnamurthy's, details, which was submitted to the Supreme Court, very clearly mentioned that this was a completely opposite to what was required to be done. And the engineer, in his wisdom, has done a fan in the staircase because he didn't know that it's for pressurization. But the way the fan has been installed, it worked as an exhaust mechanism, pulling the smoke from the space of the auditorium into the staircase and exhausting it out. Very unfortunate. Smoke mitigation, and it's a very lot of text over here. It tells you in the National Building Code of India where smoke mitigation is required. So the code of the country has already defined the spaces in which we have to do pressurization, the spaces in which we have to do ACPH. That all has been very clearly defined. So you can actually look the National Building Code of India and you can find all this written there. And I get a lot of calls, people asking. I said, my dear friend, it's all written very well. I think the whole idea remains is to understand the objective of it. Now I again come to something which is known as atrium smoke exhaust, auditoriums and kitchen. So the National Building Code of India very clearly demonstrates and mentions what is required where. Believe me, you go to many of the global codes, they will tell you the fundamentals, but they will not tell you in a prescriptive format what is to be done where. And this is where I think our country has been blessed that a lot of prescriptive information is available right now. But unless until you don't understand the science of behind it, I'm sure you are not very convincingly using it in your lives. Now we just go to for a while and I'll come to more details on it. We are talking about B is below basement or below grade. Let's say basement or grade. It very clearly says B1. It says exit access corridor. What is an exit access corridor? And I'll define it further. A corridor which takes you to the staircase. That's an exit access corridor. It talks about elevator hoistway pressurization. It talks to you about staircase pressurization and it talks to you about car parking ventilation. Again, the National Building Code of India, for all the readers, has broken up the requirements in different areas so that we are not mixing up the things. Please understand what is required in a given area remains for that area. You cannot have the same system provided for the entire space universally. What you do in your kitchen, let's say general ventilation, what you do in your toilet, what you do in your meeting room, what you do in your bedroom is all different spaces requiring different aspects. In a healthcare, a mother and child versus neurology versus oncology, you've got different standards to meet, right? In the similar pattern, smoke systems are differently to be provided for different areas. Now, very importantly, BS 9999 very clearly identifies the characterizations of the occupancies. I was very amazed to, kind of read this. Rather than this saying residential occupancy, business occupancy, assembly occupancy, they do not go by that version. They say the risk categorization. Risk profiling, you can just read the screen, A, B, C, D, E. So people who are awake and familiar with the building, people who are awake, unfamiliar with the building, people who are likely to be sleeping, people medical care, people in transit. Simple. So this is how they have done it. Now I cannot really, the ABCD does not mean this is in the order of ascending or descending risk. But all I can tell you from sure, from my experience, category A are the people who are least at risk. Offices are the least of the risk if you talk about. Now, everybody, we look at global codes being the best. Where is the school written here? They're not written the school. They missed out. School is A again, right? So the whole idea goes about is that there are many global standards, but there is always a room to improve because I did not find schools written here because most of us as designers, we are so much focused on hotels, hospitals, and malls that schools really miss our attention and we should be a little bit embarrassed about it. But nevertheless, we talk about smoke mitigation. So again, there is global standards which are coming from the Society of Fire Protection Engineers, SFPE. We are talking about NZ, which is New Zealand standards. We are talking about SIPC, which is Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineer. I've been a SIPC member for over 18 years now. So SIPC UK gives you a lot of information. So now it says pre-movement time. You know what is a pre-movement time in an office building? 1 minute. What is a pre-movement time? You whistle and you say, Mr. Rajesh, You have to leave the building because there is a fire. Mr. Rajesh takes 1 minute to understand the severity of the problem and he starts walking to the exit. Now, what about a hotel? The time is 20 minutes. It takes you 20 minutes to realize that you are in a space because the communication is not very effective, because you believe that you're in a space which is very safe. So you take 20 minutes to leave your hotel room and go to the staircase because you have a psychological behavior of people's mindset during the incident and during the occupancies, primarily in terms of the requirements. So this is what is a premium time. Can you very convincingly tell me or informatively tell me what is the fire rating of a hotel door of a guest room? My dear friends, NFPA 80, 20 minutes is the rating. It says 20 minutes, you have to provide every room a fire door. Unfortunately, I forgot to include those pictures, but when I stayed in some of the hotels, specifically internationally, where the labeling becomes mandatory, I opened my hotel room and I checked the door rating, and there was a label of 20 minutes. All over Vegas, any hotel you go, you open the door, you see labels. Anywhere in Middle East, most of the hotels will have the door ratings. Now, this is very interesting. We talk about smoke management. What we have in National Building Code of India, making you understand what is smoke management, and it talks about exit access. What is exit access? Travel distance. Now, I teach in colleges, so travel distance, and I can make the whole thing very complicated and make myself look very, very educated about the whole thing. I say, sir, sorry, don't worry. Travel distance is where you are standing in the room to the time you touch the panic bar. What is it? Take a rope, go and stand in the corner of the room. Now pull the rope till the time you don't reach to the panic bar. If you reach to the panic bar, the length of the rope is travel distance, finished. So that is what is travel distance. Travel distance is what you travel to reach the green box. I've just shown one green box, but both of them are green boxes. You enter into the staircase, my dear friends. You descend into the staircase and you leave the building. This is the safe heaven. This is the space which I've always believed in my talk. It says it's like your mother who keeps you away from all the evils and keeps you away from any eventualities of failure. And if you are within her control, respectfully, you will have all safe living in your life. So I always believed that staircases tend to act as your mothers when incidents happen in your life on the floor which you are occupying. This zone with the red arrows are actually the spaces which can trouble your life. This is businesses. You do business there, you live there, you make money, you enjoy with your family. But don't, it is like a space which can turn evil anytime. And when it turns evil, you have to go to the God, and the God is the staircase. So, evilness you can't live without. But God is also equally important in our mythology, in our lives. So, this is the space where you have got the evilness happening, and the staircase is your masjid, it's your Mecca, it's your Gurdwara, it's your temple, which has to be contained and kept safe. Now, another question. National Building Code of India, we are coming up with a provision of to provide a smoke detector in a staircase. Why do I do that? Staircase is already pressurized. But a smoke detector in a staircase makes me affirmed about the correctness of the staircase and its usability. Now let's imagine there is a smoke trace in the staircase. Okay, you will say, why, sir? The smoke is not there into that space because I'm pressurizing the staircase. But my dear friends, I go to the site. There is a person who's kept a dustbin in the staircase. And I said, why have you kept a dustbin? He says, because National Building Code of India never told me not to keep a dustbin. I said, yes, but it is storage. So storage of garbage is also dustbin. So why the code says do not have storage in the staircase? But people tend to put LPG cylinders, they put mattresses, they put newspapers, garbage areas. And what will happen? Somebody will take a cigarette bud, throw it in the garbage, and this is what will happen. You will have a fire, you will have a smoke. And what I personally believe in India, we are very poor with our communication skills. And if you do not have the communication provided to the people through a speaker in the staircase, you will have a rampage of people dying because of the fact that they are in the space where the fire has occurred and you have no mechanism to leave the space. How has COVID been dealt very effectively in the country? The communication from the PMO led to the control of the problem. We are not very effective with our communication, and this is where I think we have to be very thorough with it. Travel distance, another problem. This is a smoke seminar, but what we are talking about, we're just talking about something which is very digressed. My dear friends, if you do not have the right travel distances to your staircases, even though you may do the best of the smoke management system, people will die because they'll not be able to reach to the staircase, the number of people to reach there. So what the many of my friends who do, they do the diagonals, and some of the most qualified ones will use circles. So that's not the way to go about. It's A, B, and C. The C is the most appropriate way to be honest to the engagement with the client. Mr. Chairman has kept you. This is what is National Building Code of India. You have got your exits which are reaching to the ground level by the virtue of what you see in the diagram. So if you have got a staircase, it goes the way it is there. Now these staircases require pressurization unless until they are on the external periphery where ventilation works very well as per the National Building Code of India. Now let's go to National Building Code of India 2005 Part 4. Are we done something very different in NBC 2016? Have we rediscovered the wheel? No, sir. It's very simple. Smoke ventilation for safe evacuation, for safe ease of leaving the building, windowless, underground structures, large factory areas, hotels and assembly buildings. We were where we were. It's just that 2016 made it more easier to read. But still, we are not wanting to read where it is. Now, I'll just take a classical example of an office building. In this red box, how do you see an office building happening? I don't see an office building written here. Offices are the most least vulnerable spaces in any given areas. They have got day occupancies. We are able to people to reach into the staircases. Now we also have openable windows. Therefore, if we try to apply the same formula for all buildings, I think we are being unfair, I would use the word. Here you are. You look at the NFPA code. You can see chapter 12, it's written as typically as new and existing assembly occupancies. Chapter 12 is new, chapter 13 is existing. If you go to chapter 12, it tells you the smoke control requirements and how do you control the smoke management. As I said to you, smoke management can be controlled by 1, 2, and 3. You can do it by, sorry, let me just,
I think
okay. Yeah, so you can do it by the sprinkler, you can do smoke or manually. This is where we have to understand, but there's no office building mentioned there. So typically speaking, we are talking about, I'll just come to that. We are talking about spaces which requires, okay. So you got new and existing happening here, and this box will tell you the smoke control mechanisms required. Then there is all relating to the HVAC part of it. If you look at National Building Code of India, it very clearly says in the green box, local and remote manual start-stop switches are required. That means automation of a smoke management system is, honestly speaking, highly undesirable. Because if you try to automate too much of the smoke management system, what you are adding to is that you are able to have only situations where you are able to have situations where automation is working. But in these scenarios of smoke control management system, a lot of things have to be dealt by the firefighters by manual overriding provisions. So automation is not a very effective mechanism for smoke management. It has to have manual controls as has been written earlier in the, sorry, as has been written very clearly under the under the NFPA item number 3 on the right hand side, activation by manual operations. Now let's tell you very good guidelines for Marriott. I just talked about hot smoke and cold smoke in my earlier talk. Hot smoke means when you are having a smoke happening, when there is a fire which is ongoing, you tend to put the fan systems to remove the fire smoke and make it tenable. And I said to you that you may do anything, you cannot do it tenable. We have provided the hardware for the fire smoke mitigation. How do you operate it? The answer is here: cold smoke extract. Once the fire, and this is very clearly written, I'll tell you in the British standards, once the fire is extinguished, then you remove the smoke, my dear friends. The smoke in suspension is to be removed. But ACPH, if you feel that I will do 12 ACPH and I can have a group of people in that space to remain in that space by virtue of doing exhaust systems and creating tenability, the answer is NO. No. The systems are provided for cold smoke extract after the fire is extinguished. Simultaneous occurrence of fire and smoke mitigation systems are much more complex. You create smoke downstands, you create smoke barriers. These smoke barriers enable the fire smoke not to disperse along the building. This is the example from the National Building Code of India. These are the pictures in international visits. You see these glasses? Can you see this glass? These glasses are ascending or descending from the roof ceiling, enabling the smoke to create a reservoir so that you are able to resolve the smoke transmission from the floor to the upward floors. And this is a policy which we adopt a lot in cutouts where we are provided so that smoke does not exfiltrate into the upper spaces. This is the smoke barrier. And as you really read, the NFPA 92 talks about barriers and pressure differentials. It does not talk about ACPH. The National Building Code of India also tells you the emphasis of compartmentation, which we started our talk with. And if you compartment the building correctly and you have the right air conditioning system compartmentalized, the spread of fire is hugely controlled. This is a very typical diagram which most of my mechanical engineers would know, how you do a smoke mitigation measures. But don't forget that this is cold smoke extract. If any one of you, and I can see more than 200 participants right now, can supplement some data to me to enable to educate me that the smoke extraction system is during fire, I'll be highly blessed, because then I'm carrying a wrong perception and it can lead to incorrect decisions in the code. But a lot of research work has been done. There is no cold smoke ACPH, there's no hot smoke ACPH, it's a cold smoke dissipation. We are talking about atriums. So what happens in an atrium? You have tenability at the upper level. For creating that tenability, you are removing the smoke from the atrium simultaneously because you are happening to remove the smoke from the top level of the building. And that is where I think the whole objective lies. But if you go to one of the school buildings, one of the office buildings, one of the so-called, let's say restaurants, and you try to do ACPH over there so that people can remain there, answer is no, that doesn't work. In an auditorium, we do smoke management because auditoriums are dark spaces. Now there also, we are doing smoke management for some level of relief for the purpose of the occupants to be able to reach to the exits. It is not a classical scenario of operating the systems for maintaining tenability. It will attempt to make tenability, but it is not going to be successful in making tenability. There are two different things here. Please, let's understand that. We are not, smoke management systems in basements. Most of you would know the National Building Code of India earlier had 30 ACPH. There was a lot of debate about 30 ACPH. And then, I was part of the committee and they say 30 ACPH is written. We can't change it because there is no regulation or there's no global perspective why we should not have 30. But the correctness of 30 is right or wrong was not kind of, known. So what we did was, I'll just take you to some other slide. So this is one part of the story and I'll explain you further. Then there are corridors within the basement. These corridors are the ones which are taking you to the staircase. So these corridors have to be maintained smoke free. Now, these corridors have to be again pressurized because you have got people in boiler room, you have got doctor's room, you have got AC plant room, you have got so many things in a hotel. This corridor is the lifeline for you to get out of your space and walk to the exit. And therefore, the National Building Code of India prescribes these corridors to be smoke resolved. Now, having said that, I will come to you again on the basement car. So, what we are talking about, the smoke mitigation, please read this line. This is the line which helped me to present to my committee saying that any kind of smoke mitigation system has to function in terms of ACPH when the fire is extinguished. The pressurization system works when the fire is occurring so as to create a positive airflow for the smoke not to enter into the spaces which is being used by human beings for egress. But in case of large spaces like car parkings, or you're talking about, office buildings, or you're talking about school buildings, you're talking about restaurants, these all spaces, including Marriott guidelines, which I just showed you a while ago, it talks about cold smoke extract. And this is where I think the lacuna lies, that we are not very clear about the use of the hardware, and we depend a lot on automation of ACPH system. The automation of a pressurization system is absolutely right. The moment the fire occurs, the staircase pressurization happens and it is able to create a positive air impact for the smoke not to enter. But ACPH is never to be done on automation. It can activate on automation, but it has a manual override requirements. Typically speaking, this is what it is. In the National Building Code of India in 2005, we had a clause which said you have to stop these supply air fans automatically. So I was working with a developer in Bangalore, and Mr. Developer said, I don't want to provide this fan. I said, why? He said, because the National Building Code says that the fan has to be stopped. If the fan has to be stopped, why should I provide it? I said, Mr. Developer, please understand the why. The fan has to be stopped automatically when the fire has occurred. But once the fire has got finished, you have to start those fans to dilute the smoke out of the space. So what we did was that we addressed in the National Building Code of India under the amendment, and we removed this word because the concept was not clear to the people. And therefore, we are talking about makeup air requirements. Where should be the makeup air? We are talking about the provision of the makeup air to exhaust the system. Mr. Suresh, you'll have to mute yourself, sir. Dominic, can you tell Mr. Suresh to mute by a call?
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we have a lot of write-up which is available with respect to pressurization, with respect to ACPH, and with respect to all these things working. But the problem is hardware is provided. The system operations is a lot dependent upon the merit of the firefighter. Now, if we go to the further slides, and I think I'm now wanting to close this in next 5-6 minutes. Very importantly, electrical resilience for the fired smoke system is very, very important. We referred NFPA 110, which is towards EPS, Emergency Power Supply Systems. And this is where we picked up some of the most important areas for which we have to make them function during fire. So during fire, your STP can stop, your chiller can stop, you can have so many things which can stop. But there are these identified equipments which have to function during the scenario of fire, and their connectivity and their systems have to be highly reliable to ensure that your pressurization fans or your smoke management fans, in my version, after the extinguishment of fire, is able to perform despite electricity not being provided to other non-important areas. There is a cause and effect matrix which talks about under the NFPA and even in the fire alarm system, how systems should work. When will the fan start? When will the fan stop? All those things your consultant should advise these cause and effect matrix to the system integrator. A lot of times, consultants provide BOQ, we do tendering, we install the equipment, and when it comes to programming the system, It is left to the system integrator. No, sir. Consultant like me has to provide you the write up of the cause and effect. The system integrator can help to make it better, but he is not the man who is doing it, because the consultant knows the geometry and the requirements of the building and has a commitment to program the system rather than providing you the system without its programming. So, typically speaking, what we have to go about over here is learn, unlearn, and relearn. The whole concept lies when we work a lot, and I think, Dom, it's going to be 12:15, and we will have another 7-10 minutes for Q&A. I'll open the chat box. I have not read the chat, any one of them.
No, no
So,
problem. You carry on. Carry on. Anyway, you're almost finishing.
yeah, so I think, Dom, we are more or less on time. There is this QR code which I have displayed, and I request my attendants if they can scan it on their mobile phones, fill up the Google form, share your details with me, and more important than that, please give your technical inputs when I contact you from your learnings. Because mutual learning will only make my country, my code more robust, more clear. These kind of webinars are opportunities for all of us to learn from each other. There is so many things in the code which we are not very much prescribed, we are not very convinced. Yes, I agree. You have to be very convinced to practice what you want to do rather than just being dictated to do it. So, typically speaking, a smoke management system in my working has been more effective towards pressurization. Controls automatically for pressurizations are highly appreciated. But smoke mitigation by ACPH, from all my learnings of many, many years, I've not found it to be the best resolution for the purpose of it. Compartmentation is a very effective strategy to control the spread of the smoke. And most importantly, the overall design planning after the hardware has been installed has to be very, very engineered. Otherwise, I think we have just provided the hardware, but if we do not have the mechanism to operate the hardware in an engineering pattern, you can have the best car, but if you do not know the motorability of the car or to drive it when you need at what speed, I think the whole usability of the vehicle is completely compromised. And I am very passionate again about some topics which I will discuss with Dom, which is known as fire tower, which is also known as what we call in India PAVA, but I don't like PA, I just like VA. So we are not talking about public address, we are talking about voice enunciation, PAVA systems. And a good PAVA system, I could see, is the testimony in COVID when the PMO office used a good voice system to bring the country together. And similarly, in a fire situation, a good voice system can educate the occupants by a good SOP for averting a very, very big disaster, communicating the right messages, making a SOP of the messages will make a lot of effective usability of the hardware. And believe me, a right command or a right voice guide will really, really save the life of the people whom we whom we all are passionate, because there could be your son or your daughter or my daughter or my nephew or niece in one of those malls, in one of these hotels, in one of the hospitals. And if we have not done our dedicated working, I think we have been untrue and only been looking at bread and butter without being sharing and caring. Thank you, Dom. I'll pause over here. I'm sorry for this all emotional at the end, because this is requiring not just a matter of being passionate about the subject, but I think more of commitment, I would use the word. Thank you, Dom. I'll pause and we can interact ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep. I know how passionate you are on the subject that we can see in the presentation that you've done a lot of homework to present to the audience. And so many questions. A couple of things before we take question. There are a lot of questions in the chat box also. There's some of the questions quite long in the Q&A box. We have already given you our speaker, Mr. Sandeep Goel's email ID. You can look at the mail ID, and also you share the QR code where you are free to correspond or put your technical questions to him. And anything that you feel important for the NBC also can be given. So we'll take up a few questions. Both we have our moderator, Mr. Suresh, also is online. So we will go step by step and let's we answer very crisp so that we can attend it as many questions possible. So I'll start pick from the first one. Henry is asking, what is the role of coaxial fans and jet fans in extracting smoke in basement area and how effective? I know you covered on that. The PPT just crisp answer for that, Sandeep.
So I'm just reading some questions, Dom. I think I'll
The
just make
first
a
one, the first one, Henry Vijay will pick from the first, then I'll.
yeah. I'm just looking at the question, which are appeared. Is there any regulation for a conference hall? So I saw first question at 1201 from Mr. Bera. You have any questions before that, Tom?
Yeah, before that, on the first one, Henry, I will read out. I'll just,
Okay.
what's the role of fans and jet fans in extracting smokes in basement area and how effective?
Sir, as I said to you, very importantly, these are very effective systems to operate. Number one, we should know when to operate. As I said, my understanding, and I have got reason for my understanding, is that the global code says that they have to be done post the fire has got extinguished. They are very effective because they are able to take the smoke which is in suspension and they are able to sanitize the space. So, both two things it solves. One is you are able to establish onset of fire once again. Is there any seat of fire which has not got extinguished and will reignite? That's number one. Number two, you need reoccupancies of these pieces so that smoke can be removed and business can be brought back again. Very importantly, we talk about only the fan, and fan. The electrical component to this fan is equally important, wherein the wires, the cables, the controls, the terminations, if they are not being dealt correctly, the effectiveness of the system is completely lost. So, holistically, when you talk about a fire door, for example, the assembly is important. Similarly, in a smoke management system, the fan is a very important component, but the ancillaries to the fan support mechanism are equally important. This whole system is highly effective and very efficient, but you need to seal all the hole in the boat. If you have a hole in the boat, your boat will sink. So the system has to be very robust in its completeness.
Yeah. Nikhil Parashuraman, you are there. I asked you to unmute. If you want to talk to Sandeep and Mr. Suresh, you can unmute and speak. If you're hearing me out, you can speak, or I'll take the question. Maybe come next time. Okay, Nikhil, go ahead.
Yes, sir, I'm here. I'm here,
Yeah,
Dominic ji. How are you?
yeah,
Sandeep
fine,
ji,
fine.
thank you for the presentation. Great. Sir, I just wanted to know this free movement time, will it be calculated including the RSET time?
So
And
you
will
got
that affect the travel distance?
So you got A set and R set over here. So in the pre-movement time, you have to be from the time the annunciation is made to the time you are taking for the purpose of reaching to your exit. So required time and assumed time is what we have got. So by the dynamics of it, for the simplicity's sake, we always take pre-movement time as a part of the required and the available. So under the required category, the pre-movement time will be included in.
Right, Sandeep ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. Next question from Sandeep Galotra. Which material should be used for smoke exhaust duct? Galvanized steel or EMS?
Sir, smoke exhaust duct, again, I will repeat. We are talking about pressurization that does not need special treatment. Smoke exhaust duct, the mindset is that you are having a hot smoke extract. If you have a hot smoke extract, you have to really buy a duct which is very robustic for taking the hot smoke simultaneous evacuation. But in case of a cold smoke extract, a 24 gauge or 22 gauge ducts works very well. But I will not use the same material for kitchen exhaust because kitchen exhaust has got other requirements. I hope I could have shown you a slide in which if the duct of the smoke extract is passing through another compartment, then you have to do a duct fire rating work so that when the smoke is being extracted out, it should not impede the compartmentation which is adjacent to the main compartment. So there is a blue book which is available, which I can share, and there could be a request which could be put in, which basically identifies the fire rating of the ductwork under various conditions. But you cannot have a standardization of a robustic fire rated ductwork for all kind of applications. I would say from my experience, 20-25% of ductwork is required to be fire rated. 70-80% of the duct need not be fire rated, because typically it's a cold smoke extract processing.
Thank you, Sandeep, for that elaborate answer. Arvind Deshpande is asking a very common question: which material is good for compartmentation? Glass, plywood, or just wood?
Paper. Anything will work if it is certified for 2 hours for its assembly. I am a fire consultant. I can tell you, we are not over here to give you glass or plywood or gypsum or.
Uh,
You can use paper if it is certified and performing for its assembly for the rating what which the compartmentation is required. Well, within the materials, you have got many materials. Cost, effectiveness, provisioning is all has to be dealt with different weightages to arrive at the choice of the material.
Subrata Kumar, I think which the question you try to read, is there any regulation for conference hall or control room? Exit door is mandatory. Any entry exit is the opening door towards outside or inside. Can door stopper or door closer be put in?
Well, I can't understand too much, but what I can say is that final exit door to outside need not be fire rated. You see, why do you provide a fire door? You provide a fire door to control the risk or to resolve the spill of fire from the event zone into a safe zone. Now, let's just randomly make a conference room or any room, let's say on the ground floor, which has got even your staircases which are coming down to the ground. Now, people ask me, do you need a fire rated door on the terrace? I say, no. Where is the risk on the terrace? So, fire doors are always to be provided where you have got heaven and hell. That's where you have to protect the heaven from the hell. Now, here you are talking about a conference room, its door, which is opening to a garden. It need not be fire door because the risk is not in the garden. The risk is in the conference room. If we can have, my dear friends, later as we interact, you can have, I would say, some questions which will help Mr. Suresh sir to make more pictures within the National Building Code. Maybe your queries are very simple, but simple queries are also to be not ignored, and we can help you to reply them more appropriately for the sake of the society understanding in the National Building Code of India. We will surely happily do that.
Good, good, good. Thank you for that input. Imran is asking, in residential high-rise building, is it allowed to have natural ventilation for staircase instead of pressurized as UDCPR in Maharashtra allows ITPL confirm? I don't know this answer. If you can read that question, as UDCPR in Maharashtra allows ITPL confirm. I don't know. Can you able to understand this question?
Uniform Development Control Rule for all municipal corporation. Nothing complicated about it. Okay.
I have the book.
Elaborate that.
I could have just picked up from my library and shown the cover page. I don't know where I kept it. So the answer to that question is, sir, a lot of our designers are influenced by American codes, British codes, and Middle East codes. Those countries' environments are not the country which I live in. They are very hostile environment, very cold, very hot. The buildings over there are completely sealed. I believe me, those buildings have got a different fire requirements because hostile environments do not allow you natural ventilation strategies. My country is a beautiful country where every school, every college, every shopping arcade which is 4 or 5 stories, every dispensary, everything is naturally ventilated. That's why in India, despite being such a large country with so much of population, our incidents of fire have been highly controlled because most of my environment is passive. A naturally ventilated staircase in a residential building is a blessing. If I tomorrow try to tell my developers 10-story, 20-story, 30-story to put a fan, pressurization, control mechanism, all that is going to add problems. How many of you in Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore have seen that happening? Beautiful staircases we have got, naturally ventilated. Least risk. We are comparing them to America and to Europe and to Middle East. Those are the spaces we have to compare. And that's why the concept of natural ventilation was introduced in the National Building Code of India in 2016. I'm keeping my fingers crossed not to get a bad news. Last 7 years, sir, we got no bad news.
I was expecting this question. What is cold smoke?
Cold and
Nice,
hot
thank
smoke.
you.
I think he clarified that. He
I know,
clarified
in
twice.
presentation he spoke.
He clarified twice. Anyway, let him do it again.
Cold smoke, the word says cold. A smoke which is not hot. If unfortunately, and I'm been very fortunate not to be exposed to, and a lot of people criticize that you have never seen a fire. I said, God be kind, I don't want to see a fire. So, what if you go to a building which is burnt? It has got a combustion which has happened into the building. My dear friends, even if you go into that building after 1 month, you can see and you can smell aerosols, you can smell the smoke in the air. A cold smoke extract is a system with which we want to remove the smoke in suspension from the space, creating that space to be put back into business. Another thing why we do cold smoke extract, you have seen, I'll just narrate down for another 10 seconds. You see these, movies in Hindi or English, what we see. There is a soldier, there is a battalion which enters into the enemy zone. They kill the enemy. You have seen there is a knife in front of the rifle. That knife in front of the rifle is being poked into the enemy to see if the enemy is alive or dead. And we poke that, and after we have established that the enemy is killed, you declare victory. So what happens in case of fire? You have extinguished the fire. Now you want to check if there is any seat of fire still left. Is there any opportunity where the fire will still emerge back again? What do? You remove the smoke in suspension. You try to do a smoke which is not all that cold, but it is typically a cold smoke because the fire is extinguished, but it is still hot. So by virtue of that, we use fans which are maintained for certain temperature of smoke to be removed. But typically it's a cold smoke. So once you have removed that smoke which is of high temperature, but not the temperature of fire, you have created visibilities and tenabilities. Then you check any smoldering smoke within that space. You do not see any seat of fire. Smoke is removed in general. You declare victory, you come out of the building. So you do not do hot smoke extract. And I'm making a statement here that if somebody can educate me a hot smoke extract from a fireplace, I will feel very blessed and I will be very unhappy that I've been unknowingly doing wrong preach in many years. But my belief and my readings have made me to make this statement that all smoke has to be removed after the fire has got extinguished. And that
Good.
is cold smoke extract.
Thank you, Sandeep. There are two questions from the well-known, elevator consultant, Mr. Jagdish, who's also been nominated for elevator section. I'll just read out Jagdish. There are Deepsha also asking similar question. Jagdish is asking, there is always a debate in case of elevators. If elevators lobbies are pressurized, do we need to pressurize elevator shaft? Which as VT consultants, as a VT consultant, we recommend, but always debate by the developer. Your take on this, please.
Well, you see, the whole idea is that if there is a debate which is going on, that lobbies or hoistways. Now, I have believed that lobbies are more safer to be pressurized, but I have been given to change my opinion I'm still asking for technical inputs from my experts. I've not got that yet. But if you do a lobby pressurization, you don't need a hoistway pressurization. If you are doing a hoistway pressurization, you don't need a lobby pressurization. Either of the two works best, acceptable. The only doubt remains is I've been told that a hoistway pressurization is much more easier, much more simpler, and much more effective. I do not agree to that. I'm waiting for documents to make me convinced about it. But in my opinion, I feel lobbies are more safer to be pressurized instead of hoistways. But right now, the NBC gives you an opportunity to do either or as we talk. But I think in the future code, depending upon the real learnings coming from global standards, not the opinion and which is being debated in the committee over the table, I think a documented white paper will be required to establish this and to be present to Mr. Chairman for a final review and reply.
Sir, your comment, sir. Suresh, sir. Your
Yeah,
comment.
I heard him. Part 4, fire protection also will require it. Part 8, section 5A and 5B on lifts and escalators also there. So this is an area where both the things, but as Sandeep rightly indicated, both the provisions are there of either using the lobby pressurization or the hoistway pressurization. Option is there for both the particular thing, and requirements are coming in both these particular parts also. But I think that's where it is now at this point of time. The world over, the courts provide for both the particular options. No, not together, but either this or that.
Since there are many more questions, almost 20, we will take up these questions. We had a limitation on time at 1 hour, 30 minutes. We have crossed by 5 minutes. So what I'll do is these questions will be shared to our friend Sandeep and also with Suresh sir, wherever Sandeep could able to answer you whenever it's free, you will reply to directly. These questions will be shared to him, and the presentation also will be shared the via the video recording what we're doing it also shared to the public for their comment. It is very enjoyable. There's so much to learn. We just scratch the surface, but still long way to go. I think we have to have a different the kind of question that is coming in, not very specific to today's topic, but various like exit to be given for exit. So we will take it up as we progress, and we will check with Sandeep whether any other topic that we can cover up for general understanding. We
Fire
will
cover,
come
he
back
said.
to
He said
you.
fire cover. Fire cover is one very right important provision there. Some people want some case studies to be added, possibly on to elaborate on some of the. But in all fairness to Sandeep, he did make 2 or 3 application of what he provided. He's already talked about it, but not in depth, but broadly the application area he talked about that. But that's one of the questions which is also raised, whether some case studies can also be brought in over there.
Sir, closing remarks from you, sir, as a chairman of National Building Code.
I'm
What do you
extremely
think that what more subject that we can cover?
Yeah, I think I'm extremely happy the way in which it's a difficult, comprehensive topic Sandeep has touched upon, and he has given very comprehensive provision, not only with respect to provisions of the NBC as it goes on, including the international provisions of NFPA and also the Bureau, the British Standards Institution document. Even some of the limitations of those documents also he mentioned. But only thing is, Sandeep, boarding schools are there. He says schools, education institutions not there. In the BIS 9999, boarding schools are covered there. By the way, in the third one, you may just like to read that. Just by the way, he said schools are not there, so they put some of them. Anyway, I think by the time the NBC documents will come on wide circulation by mid-March, I expect by mid-March to come out for public comments for the whole one month time period from mid-March to mid-April. That's when maximum participation would be required. And I'm sure by the time the code gets finalized somewhere in May or something like May, June, I'm sure the final version, there'll be a lot of opportunity for dissemination, a lot of awareness creation, clarification to be made.
Sir, you have to unmute, sir. You're on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay now? Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Now okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I said by the time the document comes into wide circulation, I'm looking forward to a large amount of comments coming from the people from mid-March to mid-April, 1 month time period, and that's when maximum participation will come on that. And more importantly, I think one or two things we can also open. Fire tower he talked about will be a good component to open out as one of the reason before the whole document itself comes. We can get people prepared on that, get new ideas. And as openly Sandeep has asked from views from any others who feel they can add on some more value on areas which are gray, neither black or white. Black or white is no problem. We can put it. Some areas are gray area. He has asked for specific input from the practicing people. That will also be equally welcome in a very large way. At a personal level, I'm very happy I could out in a large way. All I can assure is that it will be an effort worth it because the best possible brains are working on this particular thing to give the practical state of the art information on each one of them. I'm sure it will be found very useful. And thank you for taking the initiative, Dominic, for doing this particular one. Maybe a series of few more can come depending upon time and energy. But the nature of participation today, not only in number, but also in content, the way in which the questions are coming over there, I'm extremely happy and I'm very confident that this is a topic which is very live. And at the end of the day, it's for the nation, it's for the families, it's for the people. As called life and fire safety and life safety is the most important component on which we are talking about, and we are happy about it. Sandeep, excellent job done. Very, very happy. I'm not disappointed at all. Possibly some areas we maybe if you had a little more time, you would have explained a little more in detail on between the cold and hot on the questions came over there. And specific clarification when you can operate extraction and not during, that's an important point. Some areas of myths to be demolished, and that also has been brought out very well, and I'm extremely happy about that. Thank you very much, Dominic, for the initiative.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I want to thank Sandeep, one of the busiest consultant, taking time for next, almost 2 hours on this topic is, we are all blessed to have Sandeep and, enjoyed listening to him. We will again seek your help and support to cover any other important topic that we can do in month of April or May. We'll come back. Thank you so much. God bless you, Sandeep. And sir, thank you very much. You have been so nice and coming forward, always encouraging to do this knowledge series. I know we have done so many webinars in the last 2 years, I can't count. Thank you so much. You are one of the mentor for the not only to the fire industry, entire built environment. You are a godfather to all of us.
Thanks for all the
Thank you
support.
so
NBC 2025, a very important defining document to come for the construction industry, building industry, for all the professionals for dealing with safe, sustainable built environment. Thank you.
Thank you. All of you have a wonderful weekend with family. Stay safe. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.